Sertaç is one of the probably most charismatic people I've met for a really long time.
Oh, thank
And I
you.
mean, there's many adjectives that have been used to describe you. I've been reading a little bit of, some of the awesome press that you've got in the last couple of years. And I was thinking, I would describe you as a very successful tech entrepreneur, really, as kind of overarching how I would introduce you. But for me, there is, of course, something much deeper about your work. There's elements of spirituality, there's obviously culture, and you represent really the future for me of what is tech in terms of the markets that are outside of the US and outside of even the West. And one of the reasons I asked you about, the situation in Turkey right now is there seems to be a different kind of resilience in some of the less developed countries in dealing with this moment in time. And of course, there's culture involved in that, and there's history. But part of it is also the populations, the very young, resilient populations of countries like yours and mine. And right now, of course, I'm in South Africa, so similar here.
Yeah.
And so that's why I asked you that question. But to start, how would you describe yourself? And then I will tell you how I might describe you on top of just being a really, really successful and inspirational tech founder.
It's a good question. I always ask myself who I am and how would I describe myself. I do this exercise once a year, especially just before the New Year's Eve. I go to my hometown where I grew up. It's a very humble apartment, belongs to my grandfather. And this guy is one of my heroes. He comes from nothing to a successful business guy back in the 50s. And then it's again replicated by my father back in the 80s. So I think I was born or I was raised by those history and those stories of resilient people who come from nothingness to greatness, from 0 to 100. And I was always inspired by not the destination, but that struggle. I think it's really touched my soul. So that I go back to my hometown every year and I ask myself where I'm going and what's the progress, what have I done. And it's not just being a tech entrepreneur or your bank account, it's the legacy. It's what kind of energy that you're bringing into this world. Are you smiling or you're not smiling? Are you happy or you're not happy? Or the people that you interact with are okay and happy with this interaction, rather than you just become the entrepreneur of the year. You rather be the people's person, and at the end, we are all sociable animals. We are a tribe, and I think it's embedded in my DNA. I am a very positive person, a very optimistic human being. I think that's my mother's side. And I love people. I love pleasing my tribe in terms of the business. This is what I do. I please people in my business. It's an entertainment app at the end of the day. And but at the end, I describe myself as a humble guy who is trying to figure out what life is about, what himself is about, and what really matters in life. I live nearby a graveyard in my humble condo in Istanbul. And when I look down, I see the biggest graveyard in Istanbul. It's like the city center. And some people who come down to my apartment, they say, "Oh, this is an awful weird. You see a graveyard. Apparently, this is the only greenery in the middle of the city. It's like Central Park because there's trees. If you look further, you will see the Bosphorus and the bridges. So it's the way of thinking or way of looking. I look at the graveyard and I feel so happy to be alive. I don't feel sorry for them, but I feel so happy to be alive. And this is what really matters. We are all so grateful to experience this beautiful journey. When I spoke to you initially about the open-ended, I told you guys that there's something that I'm trying to figure out in these days about my business. How am I going to make it bigger? And if I'm ready to take on the responsibility to take it to the next level and bring VC capital and become $1 billion company. this morning I was having a walk with my friend on the Bosphorus strip. So I said, oh, there's another VC who's interested. And I said, you know what? I think I am totally okay not to take it. Because I have the power to do so on my own, with my people, with the resilience, with the hard work, and with the power of dreams, we will reach out to the stars. And we're too happy to be free, independent individuals. I think this is what matters. This is not the size of your company. This is not the monetary value of what you do. This is the value that you bring into this world. I think this is what really describes me. I don't really care how much I have. I care about what I created, and if it's good, and it brings happiness and joy into this world or not. I think this is what.
Okay, I love this. And I was going to say, like, the time I've spent around you, I've always had this feeling of we should be so happy to be alive. You know, we went on your boat on this sort of boat ride in the Bosphorus with a full moon. You know, at this time where most of us are feeling stuck and scared and anxious. And there is this power to be sensitive to that, to be sensitive to a struggle that each of us is experiencing, but also to say, should we just be so grateful to be alive? And also what I found really powerful is when you talked about your tribe is, you know, you're not one of a pack. You didn't move to San Francisco. You stayed in Istanbul. You stayed in your country, and your own culture manifests in your work. And that's, I think, why you've done so well is it's not been about proving anything to anyone and following this really authentic path. So to give context is what you do. So Sertaç, I've also got a cup of coffee to honor our chat. They did not have Turkish coffee. So Sertaç, your business, and you've told this story many times, was really inspired by your family. You know, you started off with an awesome corporate job. You lived in Asia. You were working in Singapore, doing really well, and you had these competing energies. One of is what you described: finding freedom, owning your own future, being your own boss, but also, you know, definitely something very strong there about connecting back with your mother and connecting with your own culture, and, you know, the bigger picture of what it is. So can you describe a little bit of Faladin and how it came about and where you guys are at now, just to set context?
Yeah. So after I graduated from the college, I went to work for Ernst & Young's Dubai practice as a business advisory chapter. And I was 22. It was 2005. Then it was my first job. I was super happy to work for a big multinational finance company. I was wearing a suit. I was working in this big, beautiful buildings, and that was my dream come true for that age. But I always knew I wanted to become an entrepreneur eventually at one stage when I was feeling ready. And then after 4 years in Dubai, I was transferred to Singapore office. It was 2010. In 2010, it's almost 11 years ago, I went for a farewell dinner. At that farewell dinner, my friends had Turkish coffee. They flipped the cup and they said, "Oh, Sertaç, I wish your mom was here to read our cups." I said, "Okay, my mom is not here, but you can take a photo and send it to her." It was just a joke. My friends told me, "Okay, let's give it a try." So we tried. Everybody loved it. My mom replied back in a few seconds saying, "Oh, dear Suhair, you're going to meet the love of your life. He's going to be this tall, and he's going to be athletic build." We laughed. It was so much fun. I went to Singapore. I started working for UI Singapore. And after 6 months, I realized what I'm looking for is not in corporate life. I want to do something else. One of those days, I was sitting in my balcony with a beautiful Singapore marina view. I started crying. I said, enough is enough. Today is the day I'm going to decide what to do, and I'm going to do it tomorrow. I started to develop the Binnaz website. The Binnaz website is a marketplace for fortune tellers, astrology experts, tarot readers, palm readers, and all sorts of spiritual things, inspired by my mother's name, Binnaz. This thing started off, we bootstrapped We worked so hard. We, as in me and my co-founder Kaya, he was in the US, I was in Singapore. We worked 24/7 for a while, like serious shit. And then it started to pay off. I was breaking even in 2011, and 2012 came after 2 years of inception. I said, okay, I'm going to quit EY and I'm going to turn an entrepreneur full time and I'm going to travel the world. I quit 1st of June 2012. I bring my laptop to the mountaintops, to the yurtas in Mongolia, to the motorcycle back in Africa, in South Africa actually. Or let's go to Iceland, or let's go to Greenland to see the beauty of the northern lights, or go to I don't know where. That was my dream. That was my motivation to be free, to have the opportunity to do your own destiny.
And what was it at the time? Was it you already had the app running? What was running?
It started running. We had just 4 or 5 readers, my mom and a few others. We were making we were making maybe like $10,000 revenue tops with a $2,000 profit shared by me and my co-founder. And then it was enough for me to go backpacking. And then it started to grow. It started to grow. And then it became a business. It became a lifestyle business. I was paying myself a salary as big as my EY salary back then. It was 2014, 15, and I was in New York. Then I received a text message from a girl that I met earlier saying, oh, hey, I'm in Istanbul. Do you want to meet up? I said, sure. I'm going to come down for some family stuff, so let's meet up. So I came down. I fell in love. I ended up staying in Istanbul. The relationship didn't work. But then I ended up being in here. I'm like, okay, I'm here. I have an apartment. Well, I kind of, bought a car. I have a gym membership and all that. I have an office.
And where were most of your users from at the time?
At the time, it was all from Turkey and the Turks outside of Turkey, like in Germany. There's a diaspora and all.
So they would drink a cup of coffee, take a picture, send you the coffee cup thing, and then someone would come on.
Someone interprets this. There's someone, so the someone takes a commission, and then there's a little operational work. It's like Airbnb or it's like Uber. There's a service provider. It's like Fiverr. But then we said, okay, we need to find a way to scale this. And then me and my co-founder, we sit together, and I said, well, why don't we try to replicate the idea of fortune telling done by a real fortune teller to AI, to an algorithm. So the algorithm will ask you, hey, Suhair, how old are you? I'm 27. What's your gender? I'm female. What's your marital status? I'm single. What's your job? Self-employed. Okay, that's enough. I'm going to tell you. The computer will now match all those paragraphs and words and etc. It's written before in the database and picks up and creates a story for you saying, oh, dear lovely Suhair, welcome to Falatin. I see that you're going to meet the love of your life very soon. And this guy is told, let it, blah, blah, right?
And what does Falatin mean?
Falatin, well, the name actually is a funny story. We found a totally different branding, Holla, and we sent it to the App Store. But the App Store said, okay, this name is taken, so you cannot get this one. And it was really, literally, it was an unexpected surprise for us. We go back to the ground zero and started sketching again with the name idea or etc. One of those days, I was in my mom's apartment eating chips. And then the brand of that chips brand was Sinbad, like the sailor Sinbad. And this guy has a photo on the cover. He looks like a very funny characteristic guy, right? And I said, okay, I wish the Sinbad could be the name, but I wish it sounds a bit more exotic. What else is there? There's the Aladdin and the Magic Lamp. So it's a beautiful story. A guy finds the magic lamp, there's a genie and all that. I said, okay, Aladdin, yeah, it's two Aladdin. It's like Disney's Aladdin. But when you say Paladin, when you put an F, F is for fortune telling, and fal in Turkish means fortune telling. So it rhymes beautifully. I said, okay, this is the name, and everybody loved it. It became a meme in Turkey, in social media. It becomes like a love brand, downloaded by now 25 million people all around the world. And daily active rate is huge. It's like more than 1.2 million people, 1.2 million people every day use the app on a daily basis. And there's a very active social interaction with the people and with the brand. Within various channels, from a YouTube video, there's beautiful comments. You post something on Instagram story, there's like so many comments. Or you go somewhere, people recognize you, they say, oh, this is... So it's a beautiful connection between an AI or team between or team behind an AI and the people, the users. I've never seen such. It's maybe true for some brands that are really loved by everybody else. Like Disney's Mickey Mouse, everybody loves it. I mean, okay, it's too big to compare, but we're
but it's kind of wild. So what you just said, like you came up with this idea, but you connected with a cultural moment or a cultural energy, and you created something out of it. And I think Mickey Mouse is a great comparison. 25 million users. In how many years is that? What?
3 years.
3 years. Yeah, exactly. And so now, and you also said people recognize you on the street. So you've also brought your own persona into the story. And I was curious about you talking about that a little bit, because I know you're an extrovert, very charming, great to be around, but you're a very serious person. And you're able to manage this energy of yourself as a founder, as a creator, but also as somebody who is really proud of being Turkish and is able to translate that into the branding of your organization. I'm very curious about how you think about that and how that your own journey, especially your own levels of self-awareness are super high, how you navigate that.
It is a task that I really enjoy. It is not easy. Imagine you're a face of the brand because you're the founder. Plus, you are the character himself. So there is an alter ego of myself coming out. I love spirituality in a deep inside, and I love the idea of at least trying to figure out what life is about by looking at a cup. I love the idea of fortune telling, and I love the mechanics of this. I love the philosophy of this. So the destiny versus creation, the God versus yourself. So this is this beautiful duality in me, that there's this guy, he's a tech entrepreneur, he lives in a beautiful apartment, he drives a nice car, he comes to the office, and you have a business chart. But they say, hey man, we're now shooting a YouTube video. I literally take off this one and I wear my Aladdin suit with the turban on, put some jewelry, and I go to the next studio and I shoot a YouTube video by reading cops. And it's being watched by 500,000 people within a week. It brings beautiful combination. It brings creativity. It brings your left lobe or the right lobe of the brain interact with each other. So it is difficult. I kid you not, it's not easy, but it's so much fun. Sometimes people recognize me as a business guy. They say, hey man, it's so inspirational, so thank you for doing this, and good work, keep it up. Or sometimes there's this girl come up to me and say, oh, Mr. Falati, can you read my cup? I'm like, I am both of them, right? I can be your fortune teller, or I can be your inspirational, motivational business guy. And I love it. And I think this love of me doing what I do is resonating to my entire team. They love what they do. During the pandemic, it's total lockdown. I literally, illegally escaped from my home, come to my office, I swear, open the door is locked, the entire building. I climb up from the fire exit, I walk in, and I send a selfie to my team, some people come down. I'm like, don't. You're going to be caught by the police. You're going to be fine. They're like, no. We enjoy coming down here. This is like a fucking cult. I think every company is a tribe. If it's engaging in a physical or a business-like engagement, it's called a company startup. But if it's not, it's called a religious cult. We're almost like a religious cult. I believe you. I believe we are onto something to create an impact. No one works for money. I don't work for money. We are here for fun, the joy, and create a bigger impact on the planet. Today, we're humbled to apps. One of them is a marketplace for fortune tellers, and other one is an AI fortune teller. Not a big deal. But I feel that we're onto something bigger, and it's coming, hopefully, very soon.
I actually have another question, and of course, you can tell me how you feel about answering it. But you're in Turkey. I'm from Pakistan. We've both grown up in sort of these Muslim environments, Islamic environments, and on the one hand, fortune telling, the idea of magic, spirituality, this is embedded in our cultures over thousands of years. And yet, of course, in many contemporary societies, not just Islamic, the idea of fortune telling or telling people what happens in the future is really frowned upon. And I'm curious about, given that you didn't expect your app to go viral, and now it has, and it is this, platform for culture, how you guys navigate that, and how you, or if you do at all, and how you choose to address it now that you have a global audience.
So basically, okay, the fortune telling itself might be haram in Islamic faith, or maybe in other faiths as well. But what we try to offer here is not the haram way of, the finding the future opposed to leaving it to the God. We don't do that. It's an entertainment app, and it's free, and it's fun. It's not real. It's an AI. There's no one to blame here. Plus, I think the urge to know the future, the urge to feel uncertainty, or to feel hope about the future is embedded in our DNA. It's a survival thing. It's there in humanity. You want to feel good about the future. Everybody does. Go to States. You have your own way to feel good about the future and have hope. In some situations, actually, it's religion. In some situations, it's your meditation exercise. In some situations, it's your mindfulness practice. In some situations, going to a psychic and feel good about the future and everything's going to be okay. The key here for us to go global is to localize the product so that a Chinese guy will use Chinese astrology. A Turkish guy will use the Turkish coffee cup reading. A girl from Middle East will use the Turkish coffee cup reading as well, versus a girl in Houston will probably go read her daily horoscope. And astrology is rising in the US. So what I offer is not Turkish coffee cup reading. What I offer is feeding your urge to know the future and everything's going to be okay in your own language, in your own way. So it keeps on changing. However, the algorithm at the bottom is the same. It might be astrology, it might be tarot card reading, or it might be something else. It's the same algorithm. And it's nothing to do with the stars. It's to do with your demographics. Sometimes people, when I say this, they say, hush, don't say this, because we're in astrology. No. I am an algorithm, and it's feeding on your demographics. I am sorry. Leave the other focus.
Yeah, and I thank you for explaining that. I mean, the other thing that you touched on in the beginning is this idea of community. And so when I was in Istanbul, I sat with you in your office, and our friend Usal was there, and the three of us, I drank like 3 cups of coffee, and I was like, please tell me. And then in every one, you gave me like deeper and deeper, not always positive insights about the future. And, there is something about a safe space, about connecting, and about sharing an experience. And, I haven't for years, I haven't drank coffee. And this year I've been in lockdown with my mom in Islamabad, and every morning we take out the bialetti, and there's a whole ritual and a process, and we don't share it with anyone else, and that's kind of the morning thing to do. So I am really curious about how now, of course, you now have people in China and America and in Europe, but part of this is also a community, right? You're building not only where you're bringing astrologers, future tellers, other spiritual leaders, healers together on one app. But in the other case, you're creating a community of people who are seeking the same thing. There's a little bit of hope, a little less uncertainty, and a little bit of fun. And I wonder how you guys as a company or an organization are addressing that.
Yes, it is a community. I think it is the key to any organization in this new era of hyper user experience and interaction. Every company, every product becomes a community, and then this community defines you. If you are a Netflix watcher, you'll probably get along with another Netflix watcher rather than someone who watches a conventional TV show. And then it breaks down into pieces. If you're using a Faladin product, you probably have similar expectations or similar fears or similar hopes about the future. That's a very beautiful question that intrigues me to maybe announce that we're adding a new feature in the app, and it's called Faladin Social. Yeah. So Faladin Social is going to offer you, because we're a community, and I know, Suhair, there's a guy in your hometown who lives a mile away, and he's a beautiful match. If you want to speak to him, you can do so. You can message him. It's totally up to you, but then the sense of community, the sense of togetherness, sharing a similar path or a similar fear is going to be a feature product very soon, a few months from now. So yeah, I think the community is going to play a big role in what we're trying to achieve in the near future.
Interesting. And so that's all you can share about it.
Yeah, sure. It's not a dating app. It's more of messaging within a similar background of people.
You and I both know that most, we've talked a lot in the tech world about diversity in tech, diversity in AI, bias in AI. And here you are creating and collecting data that's relevant to probably entirely non-Western audiences. So for me, there is massive social impact in that, whether or not anybody thinks fortune telling is or isn't real or ridiculous or whatever else. And I did want to ask you about how the actual AI works, how your algorithm is built, just high level, and also how you're creating this data. Because, if I put in my information and I get in, I'm going to get married tomorrow. I know you've had some interesting experiences with people being deeply suspicious of what's coming back to them. So if you could explain that, I think for all our tech listeners, it would be very interesting.
Right. So in financial markets, if you want to invest, let's say, to buy a Tesla stock, it's not the bank's committee of investment anymore. It's an AI. The AI will read up the data, you look at the statistics, you look at how the Dow Jones Index performed, or the Nasdaq, and what the Ellen says, or the interest rates, or the Trump says, and then the AI will tell you, buy it, or sell it, or hold it. It's similar for human beings. We are complex algorithms. It's somehow depressive to think, but we are readable. We are, you can predict, it's predictable human behavior. So the hormones kick in at a certain stage of our life, or the emotions kick in a certain stage. We all feel the same when we have a heartbreak, or we all feel the same when we're in love. And it's common all around the world. If you go to Nigeria, it's the same heart feel. If you go to Korea, it's the same feeling of love. And there's localization, there's cultural differences. However, if, for example, I create a mixed and matched format for your future prediction, it works like that. There's an intro. We'll say, Dear Suhair, Or the second version, oh, welcome, dear Suhair. Or, hey, beautiful, welcome. Tons of different algorithms, tons of different alternatives. The first one is taken. Second, the body. The body will tell you, oh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And the third, oh, I'm going to hopefully see you soon. So there's 3 or 4 paragraphs, and it's like Lego pieces. We have 25,000 of each category in our database, and just keep on rising with the new content written by real people, randomly. But then, because you fall into this female category, 25-year-old, working for her own, and doing this single, this bucket is specific for you and for you alike. So it works. Sometimes it works too well and it goes viral. People say, oh my God, they knew that I'm going to be not okay with my mother-in-law. It's for everybody.
And so what people have made the assumption that you guys are listening in, right? And like,
you guys are listening in. I'm like, why do you think so? Because he says, well, you knew that my boyfriend has a white car. The car statistics in Turkey says 70% of the cars in Turkey are white. This is pure statistics. It's not like I'm reading a WhatsApp chat.
But like this does, it does really make all of us, we should be thinking about what it means to be educated about technology, because, we all know misinformation has been so destructive with the healthcare industry in the last year, and causes so many problems and is used to manipulate entire populations. And so in a way, you're doing, I think, an additional public service in getting people to learn a little bit about what is AI, because it is a very accessible way of understanding how data can be played with and used. And
it's a beautiful leverage. It's an entertainment product and everybody loves it. It's a beautiful leverage. Yeah. And you can learn and you can get more data and train your AI with 25 million people, rather than if your product is just a niche healthcare product, how many people can use it and you feed your AI's algorithm? It's limited. But if it's beautiful leverage, everybody loves virtual telling, and here you go. There's an AI that feeds on your data. Well, we're too careful about our legal boundaries for data and breaching, and this is really the topic. This is like a motto. Privacy is the key. Like we have seen some kind of roadblocks in the privacy or the data, like WhatsApp's latest situation, or Mark Zuckerberg is always under the fire. Or the Cambridge Analytica was one of those bad examples. But it doesn't mean that AI or data privacy is bad. It means there were some problems, human errors along the way. I think we never need to fight with technology or AI or all those new stuff coming out. We need to, learn. We need to adapt to this change. Like 10 years ago, I had friends refusing to use cell phones, saying, oh, this is bad for your health, it's going to affect your brain cells, etc. It's impossible. You need to figure out a way to live with it.
I've been coming back recently, since I'm teaching now, and sort of thinking more about how to connect kind of academically with the idea of progress and scaling and technology. And I was going back to this book by Reid Hoffman and Chris Ye called Blitzscaling, and this idea of how do you build in technology a company that is valuable, and how do you define what it means to be valuable? And there was a big debate a few years ago with this kind of rebuttal by Tim Sullivan, this kind of HBR debate between all of these incredible people in technology around what does it mean to scale rapidly. And so if you're Uber, of course you scale rapidly, to your point, you cannot be disrupted, but then you have to take a specific kind of stance on what disruption means and what value is defined as an entrepreneur. And I wonder for you now, you touched on this in the very beginning, this idea of, I don't know, like, do I want to take that one big VC investment and give up my own control? But also, as you build a company, you talked about building, you called it a cult, and I think, you could describe it as a cult. I described it as a really tight, loving team that is really important to this idea and values you and believes in your vision, because I've seen that. And so I do wonder how you're thinking about the future, this idea of What is it to scale, and how do you define value in an organization when actually you have the ability to do that, and very few people have that, and you're in this incredible position where you build it for your staff, but equally that manifests in your users in the rest of the world.
Yeah, well, there's a beautiful story of Bruce Lee walking down on this garden, and one of his pupils come down and says, hey, master. And Bruce Lee says, hit me. And the guy's like, really? He's like, yes, hit me. And the guy's like throwing him a punch. And then he's like, give me a real one. He's like, really? He's like, really? And then he's too slow, or he's too like questioning, etc. And the Bruce Lee says, don't think, feel. I think at the end of the day, the decisions of taking your company into the next level, either through a VC or not, or by following the path this way, or hiring this person, or going into this market or this market. Yes, we look at the data. Yes, we look at our KPIs. Yes, we are data scientists, etc. But I always say my team, well, listen to your gut feel as well. There's no real answer. I think the real answer is there. Don't think, feel. So feel what is right for us, what is making us happy. If I want to have this VC capital and lose my control, no. But maybe yes. What if the sequoia comes down and says, you know what, I'm not going to take control. I believe you can do this. Here is your 100 million. Go for $1 billion valuation. Okay. But if another guy from Turkey comes down to me and says, oh, Sertaç, take this gun. No, I don't want to do it. But no, again, we're thinking too straight. Sometimes you don't have to think, you have to feel. It's all about the feel. I think it's more of an art rather than science to run a company. If it's a science, it is not a company, it is medicine. But if it's a company running, it's a tribe, it's a people, it is the feeling, it's an art. It's more of an art.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because I think it manifests in you, in your friendships, in your relationships, and in all of the passions you have for the world. And it's a really special thing to share with people listening. So thank you for that. Okay, so that's it. I mean, I think that, you've given us a lot to think about, and I'm really grateful for your time. And I hope I can see you soon. It's been too long, and who knows when next, but there is something about you energetically.
Thank you. Hopefully in South Africa. We're really considering to come down because a very good friend of mine, almost my mentor, works for Pepsi Cape Town. So he always says, hey man, there's a beautiful villa waiting for you. Please come down. So hopefully I'll see you soon.
Well, I'll tell you what, I asked somebody, because, everybody here is, firstly, it's such a beautiful country everywhere, every part of it. But then people are so incredibly nice. So I asked somebody yesterday, I said, what is it about South Africa? Everybody is nice and generous and open. And she said, I need to think about it. And today she called me up and she said, I've been thinking about it, and I think I know what it is. It's because we're not afraid. We've seen the worst of things. We've seen the worst in each other. We've seen the worst in ourselves, and now we're not afraid anymore. And I just found it to be so powerful in this moment of time where everybody is afraid, and we've been living off of fear, is to say, well, if you confront your fears, can you be better to each other? And it feels like the thing that's manifesting here.
Yeah. True. I mean, I think it's important where you live as well. So we need to find those beautiful spots for us. I think Istanbul for me is feeding. I love Istanbul. It's beautiful. You've been here. So, but yeah, you need to keep traveling and keep inspired by the beauty of the world.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, and Olivia has reminded me is if you had right now a call to action as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as someone who's living in Istanbul.
Five. One, know yourself, or try at least asking those questions. 2, you have to dream so big. Just the dream, but as big as better, as big as it can. 3rd, put them into targets, small targets. Huge dream, but actionable targets. 4, work your ass off or die trying. 5, be positive, be happy. I think that's my 5 rules of the beautiful journey to the entrepreneurship.
Oh, amazing. So cool. Okay, everyone will be extremely happy with me for getting that out of you. I will see you soon. Thank you, Sertaç.
Thank you. It was such a beautiful hour of my day to see you, to feel your energy even through the Zoom. It resonates and feels the room. And thank you for your beautiful chat. I miss you and I hope to see you soon.